and welcome to the podcast. I'm actually so excited to have you here. I know I said actually because I didn't know what to expect because your life looks so perfect online. I was like, oh, she's going to be super boring. But you're amazing.
No, I'm not. I hope I'm not boring.
No, you're not boring
good.
online. You're so beautiful and you're like so perfect. And I was like, I have to figure out what the shit show moments are because you're just so, and I like looked at you when you walked in. I was like, her skin is radiating and she's just so awesome that I was like, maybe she's not going to say the word boobs.
I need you to come like with me pretty much on a daily basis and just tell me all those things every day.
I know, great. But you on Instagram you have like a beautiful family and a nice looking husband who's super into you and a kid
most of the time.
The kid that first word was, the 3-year-old's first word was?
I was saying penis.
Penis.
It's probably my husband was teaching her that. That's it, literally all the time. She's just like, Mom, I've got to tell you a secret. Yeah. And we used to say, I love you, but now she's like, I love penis. I'm like, okay, you cannot say that.
Don't repeat what Mummy says. Just kidding.
I know. No. I'm like, oh my gosh, we're teaching her the worst things. And my older sister has kids. Yeah. She's like, they want her to stay. She wants them to stay away from my daughter because she's saying all the bad words. These things, and she's teaching them all these bad words. I'm like, it wasn't me. It was my husband. I blame my husband.
You know what's really interesting is we taught my daughter, my 10-year-old, sex because you have to know at that age because you get taught it by other people and they give you bad information. So we just said it very medically. This is what happens, and this is sex, right? And this is what happens, and a baby's made. And now I'm really worried that she's going to go around telling everyone what sex is. And that I'm going to be the bad mom who taught the entire class about sex ed. Sex ed.
I know, but you kind of just got to do what you've got to do when it comes to your kids because, like, you don't actually know. And I'm pregnant at the moment, so I've been trying to tell my daughter all the things that are happening. Yeah. And she was an emergency cesarean, so I was kind of explaining what that was. Yeah. And then I showed her some pictures of her actually coming out. And her favorite thing to do before bed is she's like, can I see the pictures of me coming out of you? And I'm like, really? And she's like, why is there all this blood? And then she starts like getting upset. I'm like, yeah, I don't think I should show you this. But.
This is a mom fail. So when my second daughter was born, my first daughter was 5, and I showed her those pictures too. And now she's like, I'm never having kids. And I was like, oh my God, she has to now go to therapy because I want her to have kids if she wants to have kids.
Okay, so I shouldn't have shown her. Okay, she was 3, so probably, bad parenting.
I know, they'll be like, never kids. Well, I'm so grateful to have you here. You're amazing. By the time the show comes out, you would have definitely had the bub.
Well, yeah, I'm due to give birth in 2 days. So.
How are you feeling about it? You apprehensive? You anxious?
I'm all of those things, but at the same time, I haven't had time to think about it. And this is what is so different from my first pregnancy. In my first pregnancy, it was COVID. So we were sitting at home. I had a little bit of work here and there. Yeah. I think I went to about 5 events or birthdays throughout my whole pregnancy. Yeah. And honestly, this time around, it's been nuts. Like every day I've got something. I'm working right up until the end. Mm-hmm. And I remember my first pregnancy, we went for a walk, my husband and I. And because it was COVID, we had all these rules. Right. And I was about to faint. I was like, I'm going to faint. And my husband's like, sit down. I was like, no, I'm not allowed to because like the law said you couldn't sit on a park bench. So I actually didn't even sit. And I was like, just keep walking because I'm like quite law abiding.
So, well, because you are a criminal defense. You have to be.
Yeah. So it was just polar opposites to this pregnancy. And so I haven't even packed a hospital bag. Yeah. I'm not prepared at all, and I can't even believe I'm going to have a new child in 2 days. So it's very weird.
You know what? That's kind of how it should work. Don't you remember, like in the first pregnancy? I remember I was like, it was gonna be a home birth. I was like, I had a doula. I paid her like $3,000 to be this doula, and like we were doing Kumbaya songs. And I was like, this is the song that the baby's gonna come out. She was 5 kilos. She was standing upright with the cord wrapped around her neck. I was so medicated when she came out. I thought I was gonna lose consciousness because of all the medication. And like, there is no plan, right?
No, there's not. 5 kilos. Like I've never even heard of anyone having a kid 5 kilos. That's a lot. But Elle also had the cord wrapped around her neck twice. So I went into labor and then nothing was happening. And I can't even remember half the time. I think it's like, maybe it was 24 hours or something like that. And I was just there, and then they're like, hey, it's time to get her out. And so cord, but it's apparently quite common with the cord wrapped around her neck. I don't think 5 kilos is quite common.
No,
but
it was 10.2 pounds. So that's about 5 kilos.
Yeah, let's just say.
Let's just
go with it. Let's go with it.
But you're going to get your hair done tomorrow.
Yes, I've booked in. And
when you say hair, like what are you doing to it?
No, I'm just getting like a blow dry. Okay. I'm like, gosh, that's so bad to say. That's shocking.
It's
but I feel like I
not.
can be
I got
prepared.
waxed.
Okay, that's good. That's good. I'm not.
I got waxed because I was like, no one's going to see my vagina unless it looks amazing.
See, I didn't even know the process because in the first time around, it was kind of a massive whirlwind. I was on a lot of drugs and I remember going in, I was like shaking, and then they had to top up my drugs when I went in for the cesarean. And the first time I held my daughter, I was literally like shaking. I felt like I was going to drop her.
Right.
So I'm hoping this experience is much more enjoyable. My sister, who has had 2 cesareans, just really enjoyed the experience. And she said, you kind of just go in, they cut you open in 5 minutes and you've pretty much got your baby there and you're ready to roll. And so I can have, I'm doing it in the morning. And so I'll have my parents and everyone come probably in the afternoon. So hopefully it's a really nice, relaxing experience.
Do you have a song that you're going to play?
No
song.
That's how unprepared
I am.
I have nothing. I literally
have you got a waxing appointment?
Maybe
she's gonna book one now.
No, probably.
You're gonna book one now.
I should book one for tomorrow.
Yeah, you know what? You can
tan. I'll get all these things tomorrow.
When people get their lashes on, like they have lashes.
I've got lashes, but they're extensions, and I'm not going to put them on. I have them on. I've had them since I was 18. So
interesting.
What were you going to say about lashes? Hey?
I was going to say like when people have their lashes, like they put the strip on.
Okay.
And then it's like, but they're crying because it's like so emotional to see your baby. And then the corner of the lash is coming off.
I hope I don't look like
that. And then
tomorrow.
It's like, so my doula, who I spent $3,000 on, ended up taking pictures.
Oh really?
That's all she got. That's all she got to do. Yeah, it's just like a $3,000 photographer. Took pictures of me, and the whole time I was just so super nervous because I'd never had a C-section. I was like, "Is everything okay? Is everything okay?" I mean, it was.
So did she come to? I guess you went to hospital.
Yeah.
Did you go through the process originally at home?
No,
and you
we weren't even allowed to go into labor. And I was like, "Oh God, I just paid you all this money to like kumbaya me out of this baby out of my vagina."
But I feel like that's it with pregnancy, and so many people go in with these expectations. And I think you've just got to put that out and leave it at the door because you just don't know what's going to happen. And everyone goes in thinking, okay, this is how it's going to be. And it's like the complete opposite.
There's no control.
No, there's no control. And
but
I love
the more
control.
I learn about you, the more I was like, oh my God, I wanted to be my friend. I'm only here half the year. So you only have to be friends with me for like half the year. Yeah, it was just like 3 months. But I was thinking like, you did SAS.
Yes.
Oh my God. They asked me to do that a couple times. And I'm like, I'm never doing it until I can't turn down the money for my kids' sake. And they're not there yet. So I was like, no, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
But you have to put yourself in situations that are really anxiety inducing, which means that you have a really tough mental state. Like you're a tough chick.
I am, but I'm also not. So going into it, I watched the show. I think there was maybe 1 or 2 seasons, and I remember clearly saying I would never do that show ever. And I had my first daughter Elle, and 10 months later I got a call. I think I was with my husband in the park and we were pushing her on a swing. And I got the call going, oh, do you want to come and do SAS? And I was like, nah. Like my initial thoughts were like, absolutely not. And then my husband, being my husband, he was like, this is great for like you and the mental side of things, because I actually wasn't very confident in myself, and still like I'm not now, but my immediate thoughts like, I can't do this, I'm not good enough. And so I really didn't want to do it because I didn't want people to be like, the typical blonde going in and can't make it.
Right.
And so I said no, and then I had a chat to my husband, and my husband's like, you've got to do it. Come on, this is great for you. And then
I need a new
eventually,
kitchen.
I need a new kitchen. I'm like, okay, we've got to get that kitchen.
We need the marble tile.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And then anyway, so I said yes. And the moment I said yes, actually it was even before I said yes, we lived in, I don't know if you know Sydney very well.
I lived here half the year.
Okay, good. Yeah. Where do you live? No, don't.
Well, we're getting a place in Bondi.
Okay. So Rose Bay. So
we can be friends,
we can be friends. So in Rose Bay, there's like a strip along the water, and I remember it was pelting down with rain. And I was like, okay, something switched in me, and I just started running. And I hadn't run probably for over a year because I was pregnant, and then I had my daughter. And it was that moment that I had maybe 6 weeks to train, and every single day I was training 2 days, twice a day, and I was doing all the things that like what you see on there. So mimicking that. My husband was my trainer, annoyed me most of the time, but I had to listen to him because he knows a lot more about that sort of stuff than I did. And I listened to all these audio books and Ant Middleton's audio books and all these things. David Goggins. I was like, okay, I'm going to become David Goggins. He actually did a marathon with a broken leg. So I was like, okay, if you can do that,
if you can do it, I can do SAS.
If you can do it. And then I think it was just that like switching, and it takes something like that to actually switch, because I really wasn't confident.
Yeah.
But then when I went in, as the days went on, I was like, actually, I can do this. Like I was competing against ex-Olympians. There was a few people who were actually still at the height of their career in sport.
Yeah.
And I honestly couldn't believe it. I was like, actually, like I'm a lot tougher than I think.
Right.
And so it was so nice to be able to do that and prove to myself, prove to others, and then then take that on and sort of move forward with that. But I'm still not like super confident. Like,
but I don't even care what you say that you're not super confident. SAS is like no joke for people who aren't in Australia, because this will be worldwide. Like it's like a Tough Mudder sort of you. Isn't there like, I saw that a helicopter goes under the water and then you have to get yourself out of it.
Yeah, so it was.
Did you do that?
Yes, that was on my season. So the plane went under and then it actually flipped. So you got disorientated and you didn't know where you were. You had to take off your seatbelt and then you had to get through a door. And we also had one thing that was really, really cool was we were on a speeding boat. We had to get up onto the side. A helicopter came down. You had to jump onto the helicopter and then get into the helicopter. And if you can do it, it's like one of the coolest experiences you'll ever do in your life. So
are there people there that will save you if you get stuck?
Yes. And it is pretty safe. But
it's pretty safe.
I think in the most recent one, which my husband went on, someone actually fell from, I don't know if it was like 6 meters, 10 meters up, and she ended up having to leave, and the ambulance came because she fell onto the concrete as opposed to the water. So like things can happen, and that was just really like unexpected. Her bag got caught. There was something that went on, and so you think it is safe and everything is okay, but you've got to realize that things happen. And honestly, you're putting yourself in those situations, and I just think it shows how extreme the show really is.
Did you have to sign a waiver?
Oh yeah, you literally sign your life away. But I think going into that, I think there were 4 people or even 5 people who got injured in the last season and had to have surgery, all these different things.
That's just, I like to be
wait till you get enough money
until they're like $3 million, and I was like, I'll do it. I'll do anything for $3 million. You know what I mean? Pretty much. Well, I'm very impressed because it takes a certain like mental. So after that show, do you feel now like giving birth is like nothing?
Yeah, well, sort of. But again, I haven't even thought of it. But I'm like, I do. I think you put things into perspective. Yeah. And for me going on that, I've got to remember those moments that I thought there's no way I can do this. And then I ended up doing it. And I think that's the most important thing for people to know is people always say they can't do it. They can't do it. They're not going to do it or not try new things because they feel like they're not good enough or they can't do it. And I think if you kind of get rid of that and you remember a situation that you thought that you couldn't do something, and then you're like, okay, well, I thought I couldn't do it, but I could do it. So why can't I do this right now?
And does that also link into you are a criminal defense, but you were right? You don't practice it now.
No.
So a little bit of insight into that, because I've played a criminal defense attorney, and I know all the jargon. Yeah, and I even had an audition. You probably know it better than I do. I had an audition yesterday, and they said, so what do you do? And I go, criminal defense. And they go, so how do you fight for people that you know did it? And I'm like, I wasn't born yesterday. I know that they did it, but I also believe everyone has a right to fight, something like that, a right to get fought for. Even the kid who breaks into the house without knowing what he's doing. I like
how you start with, I know they did it. Well,
that's not I wasn't born yesterday. I know they did it.
Oh my gosh.
That was my scene, right?
So funny.
So what happens when you're like defending someone that you think did something? How does that work?
Well, for me, I never go into it thinking they've done it, because like you don't want to defend someone that you actually think has done something wrong. And anyone that comes to me or they did come to me, you take what they're saying and you take it face value. You're like, okay, I'm going to take I'm going to believe you and run with it, because
you have to.
You have to. They're not sitting there going, oh, I did this really bad thing. Can you defend me? And that's what I think people don't realize. Criminals aren't coming going, oh yeah, I did it. Like you might see holes in their stories and in certain evidence, and you maybe deep down think that they have done it, but they never tell you they've done it. So you've just got to kind of roll with it. And what I liked about it was I liked getting their history and where they've come from and how they got to that point. I think that was really interesting because I didn't want to judge everyone, and I also like people do bad things, but it's like, okay, why have they done these bad things? Where have they and where have they come from? Why are they here? And not that I feel sorry for them because I think so many people do so many bad things and it's inexcusable, but you've got to understand why. And so a lot of the times in sentence, that's when you kind of hear their backstory if they are getting sentenced. And it's just really interesting. But I practiced for, I'm going to say like 10 years. I was actually, but at the same time, I was only doing one day like a week for majority of that. I was like, I want to hold on to my practicing certificate. And then I was like, okay, I've got to get rid of it. I'm literally doing one day.
Do you miss it?
No, I didn't even like it.
You're like, no, I hated that I spent how many years at school? How many years?
Well, I did a degree and then I did postgrad law. So it was 6 years at uni.
6 years.
Yeah. And my dad was a lawyer. So I was like, I don't know what I want to do, but like, let's just do law because he's doing it. Didn't know what I want to do. Then I fell into it and then I started practicing at a firm and they asked me to stay on. And I was like, okay, cool, I'll stay on. But to be honest, I didn't like it. It wasn't me. Yeah. I wanted to get out of it pretty much when I began and I just didn't know how.
So you must have been good at school. Your grades must have been great.
No, they weren't that great.
Back to the perfect woman.
No, I did postgrad, so I couldn't get into law straight away.
Okay.
So they weren't that good. But I think if you set your mind up, and I think I've always wanted to prove to people that I could do more than like my blonde hair. Like I always felt like that held me back.
Pretty girl, you think blonde hair.
Just blonde hair. I don't know why it's so
You can
weird.
dye it. Yeah.
Okay, I know.
Yeah, you're just like, I know.
I should.
But I'm going to keep it.
Well, I know someone that dyed their hair and they said everyone takes them way more seriously now. And I'm like, really? We're in 2024 and that's what you're saying?
Yeah.
But I did feel like that when I was younger. And I think going into law was to prove to myself that I could do it, but also prove to others that I was capable of doing something like that. So for me, it was more about that than actually wanting to do law.
Yeah. Do you ever remember a case that really stuck with you in any of the times where you just were like, oh, this I wish I could have done more for this person, but they're now sentenced and it just is what it is?
I think you have those on a daily basis.
Right.
And there's more, I think the experience of me going into the jail and meeting certain people, like because we were doing criminal law, we had murderers, we had everybody. And there were some cases you're like, you really don't feel like they should be in this position. And then others you're like, okay, you kind of do.
Right.
But at the same time, everyone's circumstances are different. So you can have someone, you might have a murder case, but they're totally two different murder cases. So every case, you just take it on the facts and they're very, very different. So there was never one case that was the same.
So we had on a podcast, my American podcast, a detective, and they just said that money plays such a role sometimes in the way people get convicted, how long they get convicted for, if they get off or not. And you would think that wouldn't play a part, but it just definitely does.
Well, it depends, I guess, if you're on legal aid as well. So you don't get to choose who your counsel is and who your solicitor is as well. So you just kind of get given whoever. And I guess you're thankful that you are given someone to represent you. And unfortunately, you don't have that choice. So you don't know sort of who they are, how good they are. But if you are someone with money, then you can really pick and you can pick the best. So, and that can really determine. And even the judge you have on the day can determine the outcome. Like I know back when I was practicing, they were like, oh no, we've got a really bad judge. Let's see if we can adjourn it for today and like try and get another one or try and get around that because there's so many different things that can really affect the outcome.
If I do anything wrong, will you come out of retirement?
I don't think you want me.
You come out of retirement.
No. I know lots of people. I'd be shocking.
You're like, I know people. I'd be like, where is she? She's only coming in one day a week.
I'll say one thing and I'll be like out of it.
Yeah, you'll be like, I'm saying my piece and I'm moving on. Yeah. Well, this acumen and skill set must definitely lead into like running a business, right? I mean,
Yes.
there must be some similarities to what you did in the past, being a defense attorney, and also running a business and having to learn how to pivot and understand people and your brand. I'm so jealous. I'm not jealous of you, but the brand, like I want a wellness brand so badly, but I know it's not as easy as people see online. They're like, oh my gosh, this is so great. You're in Mecca.
Yeah.
But it's hard. It's a hard slug. The brand is called Into, which is it?
And I forgot to bring you some. I'm like,
I
that's
want
my,
some so bad.
that's my baby
I was like,
brain.
where
I was like,
is it? Where are my gifts?
the one thing I had to do, and I forgot.
You're worried about your hair getting done.
Yeah,
okay?
exactly.
And now you have to book a waxing appointment. You didn't know about that one. So Into is it like a play on Into You?
Yeah, so getting in tune with your body and your intuition. And it took us about 6 months to even get that name because, everything else was taken and we had to get the .com and .au and all that boring stuff. But then when we got it, we're like, we wouldn't want anything else. And it was always, for me, how I started. So I've got a business partner and she's the co-founder and she's very tech savvy and she's had businesses for 15 years or so. So she started businesses, whereas I've just been in the media for about 10 years now. I've worked with a lot of wellness brands, a lot of beauty brands, and we both come from completely different ends of the spectrum and we bring different things. And for us, it was with my first pregnancy that we were going for a walk, something like that. I had a baby. I didn't have a baby. I can't remember, baby brain. And we're just talking about our love of supplements and what we take. And I was taking magnesium in my pregnancy because I had cramps, couldn't sleep, all these different things, like a lot of women. And then she was the same. She had burnout and different things because of her pregnancy. And then we were like, okay, great idea. Let's start something, but how do we make it different? And a lot of things that are out there, they focus on one thing. Ours is like multifunctional. So you focus on both wellness and beauty.
Interesting.
And then we started back in, I think, 2021 and it took us over a year to develop even just one product.
So it's expensive, right?
It's very expensive. Like one product, depending on how many you get, like I think starting point would be like 80 grand
just
for one product. It's a lot of money. And
is that just to build, like have the brand and then to have supply, or is that just to get the packaging, the patent?
It's mainly like the raw materials, the product, everything. There's a lot, like ours is TGA, like all these little things that you don't know about, and then you're getting bills from like everywhere. I'm like, oh my God, how are we gonna pay for this? It's nuts. So like we didn't know, like there was all these things, and she'd never started an e-commerce anything e-commerce basically. So she was still learning a lot as well. And for me, this was my first business ever. And so I was like, okay, I'm just gonna like roll into it. And a lot of businesses, just because you're in the media, you might have a bit of a following, doesn't mean they're going to work.
It doesn't mean people will buy what you're selling.
No, exactly. And so first and foremost, we're like, we want this product to work and be good. So like you speak to a formulator, we're not there like mixing in like the back room.
You're sitting in the like back room going, oh, this tastes okay.
Yeah, this is good.
I had a little head rush from this vitamin.
Exactly. So we're like, okay, we can't do that. So let's get someone who actually knows what they're doing. And we spoke to him and he works with a lot of different brands. And so we're like, okay, we trust you. He's got a PhD. It's all these things. And so we're like, okay, you're going to create this product. We kind of did the market research, but it did take a year. It wasn't like, and I was like, do we really need to spend this much time? And then time went, I was like, yes, you do. You need to spend a lot of time, and you can't just go, okay, I want to create a product, and then it happens and it's out there. It's like a lot of hard work. And so it took us, so we had our first product on the market for about a year, and then we got a second and a third product at the same time. But each of those products take almost a year, like from the start, the idea to actually being in store will take about a year.
Maybe I don't want a wellness brand.
No, I know.
I know, patient.
One of the hardest things now, though, is TGA, so the Therapeutic Goods Association, and they put a lot of like rules and restrictions on things. So one thing that we can't do that everybody could do a couple of years ago was sample with influencers, and then you could see an influencer going, oh, how great is this product?
I know, and they can't take it.
Yeah, they can't. Yeah, so now I can't even take it. I can't even say I take my own product. So like, I'm not telling you if I take my product or not. It's just their rules, and so we've got to be so careful now. And it's only just come in the last year or so. So when we started, we we had all these restrictions that no one else did. So you might see a supplement brand and it has hundreds of thousands of reviews and you don't even know if they're like legit or if they're just anyone's writing whatever they want. Now, like for us, like every review we get is like it's 100% a verified customer and things. So there's a lot of like hurdles you have to jump through. Yeah, maybe go somewhere else. Go.
You know what? I just want to come out with one product, which is called L-theanine. L-theanine is a amino acid found in green tea, and it has changed. So I've had generalized anxiety for most of my life. Yep. They thought it was ADHD. They thought it was depression, but it's been anxiety. It's always been anxiety. My daughter has anxiety, and
so is it hereditary?
I think it's hereditary, and the fact that I was successful at 15 and my brain was like, what? And then like my whole life was like, where's the success all the time? Yeah. So I have it's gotten so much better, but L-theanine was the reason I didn't take medication. Okay. I was on this like crossroads of like, should I take medication? L-theanine does to me what I'm assuming medication does without all these side effects. Yeah. And it's actually not in Australia yet. So maybe we'll talk about this later. But I want to bring it into the country.
I wonder if it's allowed in.
It will be, but not yet.
Okay, yeah,
because it's amino acid found in green tea. Yeah. There's nothing about it it's not like a drug,
Yeah.
You guys can't even get CBD here.
No, we can't get much here. It's very strict. But then the good thing is about it being so strict is that people then trust what they're taking and they can trust what they're taking. But it's good to get sort of on the front of it all and make sure you maybe start researching, come in here, talk to people because it might only be a matter of time before it is allowed in. So you want to be the first.
I want to be the first one. I'll give you my supplements. I will remember to bring them next time.
Not like me.
What about taking your brand and taking it to the US? Mm-hmm. Then do some of those restrictions go down a little bit?
Yes. We haven't. So because we've just launched in Mecca yesterday.
Wow.
So
no wonder you're not worried about like thinking about having a baby on Friday.
No, I know. So our main focus right now is Australia, New Zealand with them, but we are exclusive to Mecca. Yeah. So our next step, probably later down the track or later this year, will be to expand internationally.
Then I can take it.
Yeah, then you can. Yeah. Then you can. You can say you like it.
Put all over my face and be like, I love this. My kids can take it.
Yeah. So the rules, there's different rules that will apply, and because they won't, I don't believe that. Well, they're not going to be TGA because that doesn't apply in the US, I believe. But I don't know. We were thinking of do we go UK, the US, or where we're going to go? I heard it's actually easier to go UK versus US for an Australian brand. Do you have any insight for me?
We had Jules on here.
Oh, yes, I know Jules.
She has Figure.
Yes.
The brand, and she went to the UK.
Yes.
So all I know is that the UK, because I think it's because we're a Commonwealth and it might be just an easier sell-through.
My husband was on Neighbours, so I'm like, can I use him as like a
whatever
way in?
you need to do. Be like, I need you to go do an appearance and take my vitamins with you.
Exactly.
I'd say UK probably for sure.
Yeah. I don't
just
know why.
Of the connection to Australia.
I think they love Australians, but I hope they do.
But so does the US.
Yeah.
And the US is not strict on anything. I mean, like there's in Los Angeles, there's every fourth shop is a weed shop. Oh, really? And now it's like weed like drinks and weird like
everything.
Sodas and ice cream and food. There's like restaurants that you go into.
Are they weed restaurants?
They're weed restaurants.
Are they?
You have like a burger and like I think in the food is some kind of. Listen, I don't do well on marijuana. I drove myself to the hospital the one time I took it and I fell asleep and ate a pizza. Really? So it's just not for me.
Do you know what? I've never even taken. I'm like
can tell
kind of like a goody, but not.
I've never taken any drugs because
really?
my mom was like, "You'll die."
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay.
I know. Well, that's what because I've been talking to my husband about how we sort of teach our daughter about those things. And my mum was very much like that. We're like,
scare the
not
shit
take
out
it.
of them.
But you know how some people go like the opposite of what their parents want to do. If they're really, my parents weren't really strict though.
Right.
Like my mum was like wanting me to go out when I was 15. My sister was meeting up with a guy at a bar and she didn't have anyone to go to. And my mum was like, Anna, just go with her. And I was like, I really don't want to go. I was like crying and I was like, I don't want to go. She's like, stop being so stupid.
Go drink a drink.
Go to that bar. And I was like, Mum, you can't be doing this.
But that's why you turned out so good.
Yeah. So I but then like, I don't know, I think people, I guess it's just individual, and it's, I don't know, I think probably a lot comes into play, and it's not just that one thing. Because if I told my daughter, don't do this, to be honest, I don't think she'll listen to me. She doesn't listen to me now.
My parents let me drink inside the house.
Oh, really?
So when I was 16, which is kind of when I was having that sort of experimental time, I thought, you know what, I'm going to have a few drinks. I drink Stolly.
I used to, yeah, the black one. Is it black? No, it was the red.
It was see-through, and it was like
red.
It was.
Though.
I know because I vomited it up so much.
Ew.
It was the yellow one.
Oh my god,
like the
Stollies. Yeah,
Stollies.
Oh no, black Smirnoff. That's what I used to have.
Yeah.
Is that the same? I don't know.
You know what? I will never touch Midori ever again.
Midori, I don't like Midori
because I drank like a whole bottle of it
gross.
on a train and then vomited the whole way back. And I still can I will never touch that. Kahlua too.
Kahlua,
I think
yeah,
when you're experimenting, but my parents let me drink in the house, but then all my friends would come and they would like have a few drinks. And I remember one of my friends, she drank too much and she like climbed a tree and started eating the acorns.
Oh my god, is she okay?
And my mom was like, "What's happening?" I'm like, "Oh, that's just Pip. She's fine.
Her.
She's just very adventurous."
Did your mom know, or she just actually thought she was adventurous?
But then one other of my friends, I don't know if you have any of these stories, but I woke up and I looked and she was like, her name was like Anna. And I was like, "What are you doing, Anna?" She's like, "I'm fine." And she was peeing on my carpet.
Oh my gosh.
That is when you know.
You got to stop there.
You got to
right
stop.
there.
That's like at 16, I was like, "I'm done. No more drinking."
Oh my gosh, yeah. Peeing on the carpet's not a good thing. I don't think I've ever done that.
You've
so,
never. What is something that you have done?
I remember it was Christmas and I think I must have had probably Stollies or Black Smirnoff or whatever it is, and I was vomiting at, like, my whole family was there and my extended family, and I remember vomiting in the garden, and then my auntie after that moment said she could never look after my kids again because I used to babysit her kids. Yeah. And I was like, come on, like, I'm 16 or however old I was. And I was like, now I can't babysit your kids. Yeah. Anyway, so that was just...
You should let me. I'll buy him some drinks.
I know. Her kids were really good. They never actually drank until they were 18. I think she said, if you don't drink, I'll give you a holiday at the end of it. I was like, is that really worth it?
I know.
Not really.
It's hard to figure it out, especially I've got a 10-year-old now and she's getting older and like she's thinking about like boys and like the opposite sex and like just in a cute way. Like, oh, he looked at me and he held my hand and stuff like that. And I don't know, like I always thought that I think that young children are really difficult when it comes to just physically being there for them. Like you're their everything. You have to feed them, you have to bathe them, you have to change their diaper, you have to like take care of them. And then when they get older, it's just so mental and like it hurts more. Do you know what I mean? I'm sorry to say, but like when your daughter who's 10 says, "I hate you," or like you're a crappy mom, like you don't want to yell back. You just but it just feels so deep and so painful.
Sometimes my daughter says that and she's 3 and I'm like, okay, whatever, bye. Like it doesn't bother me
like,
right
you'll
now.
See.
Yeah, you wait. But then I know when they do get older because whether or not they really mean it, but they are old enough to sort of know what they're saying. So I can imagine it, dagger to the heart.
So I read something that said you didn't have like a boyfriend until
tell my husband. True? Yeah, so I saw
who wouldn't fall in love with you?
I know, come on.
She's smart, she's blonde, she's cute, like all the things.
I had, like, I saw guys, so it wasn't like I'd never been with a guy. I dated guys. I don't think I wanted to let them in, and I felt like I'd always go for the wrong guys. So always the bad boys, like always like very good looking, but the bad boys, like and I went down that knowing almost that they probably weren't gonna, wasn't gonna form we weren't gonna form a relationship or anything like that. Yeah. And I think that was probably intentional, and which is why it was great when I met my husband, because it felt like we were almost forced together, and we actually and we didn't know this, but when we met, because we met on The Bachelor, and before that he did a bit of promo stuff, I did some promo stuff, and we were at an event together, and we were both doing promo bits and pieces, and there was like a handful of girls, a handful of guys, and we didn't even look at each other, like we didn't even think, I didn't think he was a good looking guy, and vice versa. He actually liked another girl at this who actually applied for the show, and he had to say, oh no, I know her, like they gave your surname, and if he knew you by your surname, you couldn't come on the show.
Wow. And
so it was just funny. And then before I went on, my friend told me, she was the one that signed me up, she said basically, I'm a bit worried, I've heard who it is, and like you guys actually have met and you didn't like not that you didn't like each other, you just didn't connect. Like there was nothing there. And so I was like, oh, great. Like I'm really worried now that like I'm going to go in there and not like him. But then I did go in, I fell for him, and you were kind of like, he was the only guy that you could fall for. So I'm like, I have no other choice. Yeah. So kind of went there. I was like, yeah, okay, you'll do. But it just worked because it forced you to be in these situations that you probably wouldn't have been in outside of that. And so that's why I think it really worked for us. And you got to know each other on a deeper level, because like if I went on a date with him sort of outside the show, whether or not I'd been like, oh, like nitpicking certain things and vice versa for him. So we're just really lucky that we're both there and doing this show at the same time. Because
But you seem like such a girl's girl. I don't know how I would feel if I was into the guy and he was kissing other girls.
Because of my mindset, I was like, he's not going to pick me. I literally, the first day, I was like looking at these women, I was like, they're amazing. Like, there is no way he's going to end up choosing me. And I called my mum. I was like, Mum, they're so hot. Like, had a little cry to her. And then I think that was just self-doubt coming in. And then I could deal with girls because I loved girls. And I also never got jealous, and you kind of put their date aside, and you didn't want to hear it. Like, it wasn't nice if you had like a great date with him and you felt like you were connecting, and then all of a sudden someone else was saying the same thing. Like, it's not nice, but at the same time, you got to understand where you're at. Like, you're in a show and that's what it is. Don't get too caught up on it. And I also I didn't have too many expectations of like me being there right at the end. So I was just like, okay, if it works, it works. Right. Like, this is something crazy that I'm doing. And it was the first one ever. So it was over 10 years ago.
Wow.
And so didn't know what was going to happen or anything like that. So we kind of just went into it. I was so worried. My dad, I only told him maybe a month before I went in, because I just started law as well. So I was only like a year into my law, and he was like, great, Anna. That's right. You're really making a good decision.
Like, Dad, I'm only here once a week. It doesn't really matter.
I know. And I was so worried, because I was worried about what everyone was going to think. And yeah, my dad didn't want me to go on. But then, look, it worked out. I've got now another kid on the way. It's been great.
What did he say that he loved about you? Like, what made you? I don't know. There's so many women, and he picked you. Like, I get it, but you know why? Like, what did he say? Was about you?
Well, to be honest, with the show, they probably put a handful of women that they actually think are gonna like connect with the guy. Right. So I only really had to compete with about 5 other girls, and all the rest, like, because it is a show, it's like their characters, or they play a role in the show. Right. So I think probably our lifestyle. And when I was in there and I was surrounded by, and I'm still really good friends with some of the girls, and they've all moved on. They've all
made out with my husband.
Yeah, I know. They literally all my friends
have made out with my husband.
But yeah,
you're like, I haven't thought of that. Sorry, I just thought that you should probably know that. Yeah.
Okay. I'm pitching it right now. It's great. Yeah. What was your question?
I know exactly. I can't even remember now. So I'm so sorry.
What he liked in me. Well, okay. What did he like?
What did he say that he was like, I'm into you because?
I think it was, I actually knew. So when I went towards the end, when there were a number of women, I felt like our lifestyles were really similar. His upbringing, like family, all these different things. I just felt like, compared to other people and where they were at in life, I just felt like it was right. Yeah. I assume that he was the same. I can't remember what he said to me. He says some nice things to me, but I can't really remember. But I know we matched like well, and it was just everything about, like, we lived, I think, 5 minutes from each other. Right. Like, I was in more Paddington.
So location
was great. That was easy. Yeah. And I remember afterwards, when we weren't allowed to tell anyone we were together, and because it was the first one, there weren't as many people interested in it. So we kind of got away with it. But I was wearing a wig on a boat because his family live on Lake Macquarie. Oh, yeah. And we went on a boat, and I was wearing like a black bob, and we were just like, because we wanted to hang out, and we couldn't hang out for a couple of months because the show hadn't aired. Right. So it was really,
it's kind of sexy though.
Yeah, it's hot.
It's like, huh.
Now I'm like, had 2 kids. I'm like, very not
You're
hot.
like the lawyer that like we never saw coming.
Yeah.
Well, before we go, and I don't want this ever to end. Again, I'm friends with you half the year.
Yeah.
Before we leave, we always talk about our biggest shit show moment, right? And it can be beautiful and deep, or it also can be just like really funny.
Yeah.
So I want to know that one, and then you're going to teach me some Aussie slang at the end of this.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So my shit show moment. So I was trying to think of this. I was like, hey, this happens, like things happen on a daily basis. But one thing, it's probably more family because when you have a kid, so many different things happen. And this is probably like a literal shit show moment.
Yeah.
So we were walking, it was like along the water. My daughter was on her scooter. She finished up, went to pack up the car. My husband was packing up the car. Yeah. I thought he was watching her.
Yeah.
And so I walked sort of around, and then I stepped in like the biggest piece of dog shit, and I was like, okay, this is great. This is
not going to get any worse.
No. And I had my daughter there, and then I was like, okay, trying to get it off my shoe. I was like, this is really not nice. And next minute, I saw my daughter sprinting onto like the main road with cars coming from both directions. She was 2, and she's at that stage where it literally just runs. And
yeah, of course.
I was screaming on the top of my lungs. I was like, everyone was looking at me. I was like, I ran on. I was like, Cam, can I get her? It was nuts. And I was like, this is just like, I started bawling
and
after
then
we got her.
She slipped on the poo.
Yeah, slipped on the poo onto the road. No.
Yeah. You could have just added that part. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely more interesting.
Yeah.
And my husband ran on the road to get her because I was like, you go on the road, like you run on.
Yeah.
And after that moment, I just like broke down. I was like crying. I was like, I am just like such a terrible mum, but it scared the shit out of me.
Oh, it's so scary.
But it was so scary. And then I feel like these moments happen all the time, and you've almost got to get used to them because like it's something that it was like that near death experience, and she was 2 years old. So I kind of felt like a failure as a mom, and it really, really affected me that. And then it just honestly happens all the time now. Like she went and cut her hair recently into like a mullet, and she's ripping it. So she's got like, anyway,
it's so,
it's draining and it's exhausting, and mentally I'm like, oh, but that for me was a real shit show moment because shit actually was involved.
Yeah, exactly.
So
my first daughter used to choke a lot.
Oh, really?
She had like this gag reflex, and every time she ate something that was soft, like a banana or something like that, we were on the freeway and she was like, and I was like, there's been so many of those moments.
I know.
I remember what else.
And there's not much you can do. Like it's those moments, like maybe we could have looked after her a little bit better on the side of the road, but I did not think she was going to sprint out there with all this traffic. Like it was a main road, and I was just like, what has just happened? Like in an instant she could have been gone. And I was like, yeah, it freaked
and
me
then
out.
You hear these like mom shaming sort of comments like about like, well, why weren't you with them 24/7? But I remember walking and hiking, and my daughter was 4 at the time, and she went to the bin, and there was a cliff right there.
Yeah.
She was like seconds away from it, and luckily she walked back. I didn't know there was a cliff there, because you're always trying to, when they're little, just trying to make sure that they stay safe, you know? Yeah. And that's 24/7. It's just,
I know.
It's just
and
wild.
it's like those moments where you might turn around, you might even be putting something in the bin and your daughter's like running the opposite way, but I don't know, you can't beat yourself up about it. Like as much as like in that moment, it is the worst moment. That was the worst moment of my parenting life. Yep. But at the same time, like it's not, yes, we could have been watching her even more, but at the same time, like I did have poo on my shoe. I had to wipe it off. I had to wipe.
And now you have 2. It's like it's almost so much more of a shit show.
Great.
My second,
I'll have more stories next
I'll
time.
say this real quick story, but my second was potty training, and we were like, potty training during COVID. We came out here, and we were the only people. There was 4 people on Qantas because we were allowed to come in, but we had to quarantine for 2 weeks. So we were in a hotel room, and we were quarantined, and we got a potty trained. She was 2. We took off all her clothes and just put a potty in the middle of the room. And by the end of it, she was pooping in the potty. Oh, good. But we were like, great, we can wear underwear. And we went to a park, and she went up the slide and just shit all the way down the slide. And we're talking like slathered.
Did you grab her and like, not my child?
I looked at Sean and I was like, that's on you. And I just walked away with my eldest. I was like,
done that too.
I can't. And he was like, oh my God. And he was like, he told everyone not to go on the slide. And he was using baby wipes with his hands. His hands was covered in shit. And I was just like, this is awful.
This is a disaster. But I think you just got to walk away. Just like,
I would
do what you did. I'd just be like,
there's
not
some
my
jobs
child.
that I'm like, it's not me.
You take it,
Tim.
Tim.
It's not me. Okay, and now some Aussie slang words. Like two of your
so
favorites.
I knew this was coming, by the way. So I had to write things down because I was like, am I really Aussie? Like, I don't even know Aussie like slang.
Well, what do you use that's Aussie that like maybe people in other countries don't know?
Chuck a sickie. Is that?
That's a good one.
Is it? Oh, I thought you were going to say that. It's
That's
pathetic.
a good one. I mean, I know what it is.
Okay, so chock
It's old. That's old school though.
Chock-a-block.
Yeah, I know that one. Chock-a-block is like full.
Yeah.
And chuck-a-sickie is
so.
like say that you're sick, but you're not really.
Yeah. Stop carrying on like a pork chop.
Oh my God, don't know that one.
Oh, really?
Did you just make that up?
No, I didn't make it up.
Make it up?
I found this online, actually.
Right. Have you ever said that to your husband? Hey, hubby, stop carrying on like a pork chop.
I probably
Can you
have,
try that
too.
tonight? And please let me know. DM me and be like, it didn't go down well.
He'd be like, what?
Yeah.
What language are you speaking?
Yeah.
Yonks?
Like a long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Is that Aussie? Or
yeah,
not?
yonks ago.
Okay. Yeah, like yonks ago. These are shocking.
You gotta
aren't
use
they?
it in a sentence.
Oh, do I have?
You're just like yonk.
Oh, yonks.
Yonk.
Okay, well, let's move on to the next one. Mucking around? Are you mucking around?
What website? Wait, I love that you were prepared. But what website are you
probably
using?
like an American website or something.
The worst Aussie slang. Worst Aussie slang for Americans.
Okay, that's it.
You're
I'm
like,
stopping
done.
there. I honestly, I don't know. I'm
Okay, what's your worst?
Do
Do you ever use swear words then? Ever? Probably not.
Yeah, I do.
What's your favorite one?
Probably fuck. I don't like to say it out loud.
You use them, you don't like to say
use it, but I don't like
oh my
probably
God,
that.
We should add this to our show. Your favorite swear word.
I'm like,
and there's some that like just say it, and some
okay,
like
I would never say the C word. Do you?
never.
Okay, yeah. But what?
But Aussies say that a lot, and I actually am really
do
offended.
you reckon?
Yeah, reckon.
I reckon. Is that? Oh, there you go.
Aussie one.
Is it?
You know.
Reckon. Do you know how much I'm sweating in my jacket? I feel like I've got like.
It's an Aussie one. Reckon's definitely an Aussie one, but yeah, I don't even know what we're talking about. Budgie smugglers was a new one for me.
Really? See, that's to
Do you
me.
ever
I
use
wouldn't
that,
even
though?
say that. I had that on my list. And I was like, nah, I'll cross that one off.
Because you'd never say you're a classy woman.
No, budgie smugglers. No, my husband has budgie smugglers. I don't like. I don't like the look of them so much. I'm like, can you put some board shorts on or
Yeah,
something?
my husband's never gonna wear budgie
No,
smuggler.
my husband wears them all the time. I'm
Does
like,
he really?
Yeah,
but it's
he
probably
loves
because he's
them.
like all like ripped and stuff.
Yeah.
So like wants to show off the legs he's done
Probably.
on Thursdays.
No, yeah.
Yeah. He's like, Thursdays are my leg days, so Fridays are my budgie
All his
smuggler.
photos are from like Europe.
Oh my goodness.
Oh,
well, I don't want you to leave, but you're gonna have to because you have to have a baby.
And I am also sweating.
You're gonna have to have a baby.
I'm profusely.
What if you like your water broke? What happens if your water breaks?
Well, I feel sorry for the couch.
No, but like, do you go? Then they do a C-section.
Oh, yeah. So my
Okay.
water actually broke before I had contractions
Wow.
in my first pregnancy.
Interesting.
And that was the same with my sister on both times. Like
Yeah.
her waters broke. So look, it could happen right now. But I don't actually want it to happen tomorrow because it's the 29th of February, which means she won't have a birthday. She'll have a birthday once every
my
4
gosh.
years. So I'm really hoping I don't come
No.
then.
Question: what star sign are you?
I'm Sagittarius.
That's why I like you.
What are you?
A Leo.
Oh, are we matched? Like
We're
match
so
made in heaven?
matched. Sages are my favorites. If you
Really?
said you were a Scorpio, I wouldn't have believed it.
Oh,
Oh, Sages are the best. That's great. Well, thank you guys for listening. We love you and adore you. Please come back maybe after you've had the baby. The baby I can look out. I'll breastfeed for you.
Can I
That's
like, can you
weird.
babysit for like 6 months?
Yeah. I'll just be like, I'll take it back. I'll take the baby.
Okay.
Do you have names?
Yeah, we do.
2 girls too, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you can tell me offline.
Okay. Well, I can tell you now because it'll be online.
Yeah, that's true.
It's Ruby. Yeah, you guys are the first ones to know. Woo.
Yeah, but everyone else is going
I
to
know.
know.